Well, hi out there. This is Heather Vickery. You've tuned in to the Brave Files podcast, and we are so happy to have you here with us today. Before we get started, I want to ask you for a little favor. We are preparing our New Year's Eve gratitude episode. Each year, we produce at least one, sometimes two special episodes where folks like you, our listeners, our fans, our guests, all call in to share the things that they are most grateful for this year. And we thought that it was about the perfect way to cap off a year like 2020 with a really special episode dedicated to what you are most grateful for and to what you're most looking forward to in the coming year. So here's what I need you to do. Go ahead and pause this podcast right after I share this information. Give us a call at 312-646-0205 and just leave a voicemail. All you have to do is tell us what your name is, where you're from, what you're most grateful for from 2020, and what you're most looking forward to in 2021. You can make this call by yourself, with your kids, with your partner, your friends, anyone that you are safely quarantining with this holiday season. Go ahead and pause right now. Give us a call. Again, that number is 312-646-0205, and you just leave a voicemail. It's so super easy. The episode will air on December 31st, which is New Year's Eve, and we cannot wait to share it with you. All right, now let's get on to the business of this week's episode. Friends, does your to-do list feel like a treadmill? Are you overburdened and burnt out? This sounds like a sales pitch, but it's not. This is what we're talking about in this week's episode. My guest, Yvonne Marcus, teaches us to give ourselves grace through something she calls Agile Parenting. Typically used by software engineers, Agile is a system that asks, what is the least amount of work that you could do to complete this project? Let's stop being stonewalled by our perfectionism and start using systems to get ourselves free. Let's face it, it's brave to disrupt the status quo of your household. It's not easy, but it truly could make all the difference. And remember, no person is an island. It's okay to ask for help. The big secret is that everyone needs help with almost everything. Super excited to share this episode with you. Let's go into the new year, letting go of perfectionism and looking for ways to live happier, more joy-filled, braver lives. Here we go.
Revolutionary, fearless, and creative.
This is Heather Vickery, and you're listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. When we choose bravely in big and small ways, it powerfully elevates our lives. I hope these stories connect with you and encourage you to embrace bravery in every possible way, day after day. Together, we can build a movement of courageous living that enriches both our lives and our communities. And if you enjoy the show, I ask you to please share it with others. Maybe think of someone who you want to choose bravely right alongside you. Thanks for tuning in. Now here's the show. Hey friends, I have to tell you, adulting is hard, especially in 2020. If you're anything like me, you are struggling to do your best and you've used every tool in the book. I know that I have used every tool and resource that I have as a coach to survive this, least of all to try and thrive through it. Well, today's guest, Yvonne Marcus, is here to share her brave story of learning to run her family like a well-oiled machine. That sounds impossible to me, but I don't think it is. So I can't wait to hear this. I expect to learn a lot and be super inspired. Yvonne, welcome to the Brave Files.
Thanks for having me. It's so good to be here.
So it's good. Yes, we cross paths in a lot of different ways in the realm of internet world. And so I've been really excited to share this. I love watching what you're doing and how you're helping people, but you haven't always been a maven that runs families like a well-oiled machine. How did you get here?
So to be honest, I had one child and it was pretty fine. Like you kind of don't notice the ways in which your life has changed significantly when there's one and you still get some time to yourself.
Yes.
That is quiet, or you get more partner time. when we introduced the second infant into our lives, it's when I really started to notice a difference. Mostly because now I had one that was already sleeping through the night, and then I introduced this new infant that was then not sleeping through the night, and had some early problems with RSV, which is a virus.
That's scary. Yeah,
a respiratory virus that kids can get. And so things just kind of didn't feel in control. But it was really the dinner situation that made things complicated. Every night I was like trying to prepare dinner, as you do, because the worst part of adulting is having to figure out like what you're going to eat for 3 meals a day every day, I think. And then I would get started. I would have...
I'm laughing because especially through the pandemic, I'm like, these people want to eat again. I am so tired of feeding everybody.
Yeah. And like having to plan lunch and dinner is like, oh my God, I just want to like throw leftovers onto a plate and be done with lunch. I don't want to think about this anymore.
Sometimes you do that, right? Please tell me sometimes you do that.
Oh yeah. Well, sometimes I plan for that to happen. Like we make extra dinner.
Yes.
But the thing about it was that every night when I would try and prepare dinner, my daughter would decide that that was when she wanted to breastfeed, and we were breastfeeding on demand.
Oh, wow.
And she would not take a bottle. It was refused. Absolutely 100%. She was never going to take it. We had tried all kinds of different ones. And this would result in me yelling up to my husband to come and finish the dinner that I had started cooking. And he would be so confused because like I had a recipe, I had already started, like stuff was on the stove, stuff was in the prep section, because I'm the world's worst about doing mise en place, which for people who don't know what that means like prepping all the things that you're going to do for your meal. So it's like your cutting of your vegetables, your measuring of your spices, like all of that stuff that happens in a restaurant before they start to cook, I don't do. Also, when I cook, the kitchen starts to kind of look like a train ran through it and just threw all my ingredients in all the places.
That's what happens when my kid cooks.
Yeah. It's this ADHD brain. And so I don't know how many times like I would be cooking something and I'd be yelling to my husband because I need him to go to the store and get an ingredient for the thing I was cooking.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But so this yelling was happening every night. And it was getting really frustrating for him because he didn't know where I was in the recipe. He didn't know what to do. He couldn't just come in and pick it up. And I couldn't finish it. So I was frustrated at not being able to finish it. So then I'm yelling at him because he doesn't understand where we are in the recipe. And I need him to just figure it out. But he can't just figure it out. He needs me to explain it to him. And we just realized that like this isn't workable anymore. And I was trying to take on too much. Not because he wanted me to take on too much. He's more than happy to cook every night. But because I felt,
nice.
Yeah, I felt so much pressure from society overall as to like the mommy martyrdom syndrome that has become so popular.
Yes.
Yeah. I hate to tell people. I mean, I love to tell people, but I really just hate to burst this bubble sometimes. Your mom did not do it all. My grandparents lived next door. I was over at my grandparents' house a lot. I know that they fed me dinner quite frequently. Right. So to be honest, like, you know, today, yes, we are under more pressure and there are more things happening because many of us don't live as close to our relatives as our parents did.
Yeah. I mean, when I was growing up, my mom was a single mom and she did do it all, but she didn't. I mean, she worked full time. So I was in daycare or childcare, all, you know, she used to leave me in until after they would feed me dinner because we didn't have enough money for her to give me dinner and she would just skip dinner. But she knew if I stayed there, she would feed me. So, you know, she was doing it all, but she wasn't doing it all because we can't. Nobody can.
Yeah. So it's either like you lived really close to family or you had resources that were available to people at the time. And right now, I mean, we're in a resource problem and we all know it. Like universal childcare is not a thing and we all want it to be.
Yes.
universal pre-K so that kids can get the start that they need. We all want these things and we all know that they're important. But I think back in the day, there was also just a lot less pressure on people at work. There was a lot less pressure on moms at home. Like they still felt some, but there was also this like revolution that was happening when our parents were coming of age that was full-fledged like feminism, women go into the office, creating this change that we're experiencing now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this was unacceptable to you. You were like, I can't live like this. My husband can't live like this. We're all miserable. It's not good for the kids. So what'd you do?
So we started actually using Agile as a process without calling it that.
Okay.
It was probably a year later before I introduced it as that. But my husband was like, well, I'll just cook dinner. You won't.
But hold on, go back and tell folks what Agile is.
Oh, so Agile is a project management system that was designed for software engineers.
That's so cool. And so you found a way to hack it.
Yeah. So basically, we didn't call it that originally. My husband just said, I'll cook dinner every night. You come up with the recipe or whatever it is you want to do, and then I'll cook it. Okay. So he would cook it. We went to the grocery store as a family on Sundays so that the kids could pick out fruits and vegetables that they would eat. And then he would just cook the meals. But then I felt really bad because I actually like cooking and I actually like being in my kitchen. So after a couple of weeks, I was like, I don't like this. This is really miserable. Oddly enough, because he had taken something really big off of my plate, especially considering that only I could breastfeed. And I was like, okay, so we got to solve this problem. So then we started that I would do the mise en place or the prep work.
Okay.
During the baby's nap time. And then I would have it all prepped for him for when he started cooking.
And so did that make you feel better? Because you said earlier that you didn't do the prep work. And did you not do it because you just hadn't prioritized time for it, or because you didn't like it, or you didn't think of it? I don't know.
To be honest, I'm not even sure why I didn't actually do it before, because I'm always very stressed out when I'm cooking dinner, because this still happens to this day where I go and I start cooking the meal and I've read half the recipe. I haven't read the whole thing, so I don't even know what order things are happening in. And I'm spaz. It is super spastastic to cook with me. It frustrates my husband a lot, or he'll just kind of giggle at me. But it's just a thing that is the way that my brain works. Is I don't think, I should do all of this stuff before. But if I wasn't going to be able to cook, to be able to just sit in my kitchen and calmly and quietly chop a bell pepper was a completely different experience.
Okay. All right. So it didn't just stop there. You've created this whole Agile Parenting routine program. Dig into that a little bit.
So funnily enough, I read a book. It was called The Secret to Happy Families, I believe is the title of it, but it's by Bruce Feiler.
Okay.
And he's pretty well known because of the fact that he wrote Council of Dads, which is now a television show.
Right.
That's pretty popular at the moment. But he wrote this book where he had gone and interviewed a ton of people about parenting and tried to take from each one of them what were the positives. And the first chapter was a software developer who was on the autism spectrum, talking about using a daily Scrum board. Now, a daily Scrum board is a board of what needs to be done, and then you can move it or you can check it off. So it really gets that dopamine drip going of being able to say that something was completed. But
yes,
also
love that. I don't know anybody who doesn't love that.
Yeah. And it also takes a lot of the fight out of getting your kids ready for school. Because if you have everything on that board that your child needs to do to get ready for school, and for my kids, it had to be a visual board because they were not old enough to read.
Right.
You have get dressed, and you have all of the steps for getting dressed, like put on your clothes, put on your socks, put on your shoes, eat your breakfast, brush your teeth, all of these things are on this board and they can take their magnet and pull it from the to-do section to the done section, then I'm no longer having to fight with my kid over what's next on the path. They can see what's first, then next, then next. And for us, we gave a little leeway. There were certain things that just don't have to be done in a certain order. Like you could have breakfast before you get dressed. I don't care.
Sure.
But you can't brush your teeth after you've left to go to school.
Right. You've got to do these things before you leave for school. Yeah.
Right. So there's just like an order of things. And for us, it was very flexible. You could brush your teeth before you ate or after you ate. I always choose to do it before because I don't like the taste of food if I haven't brushed my teeth.
Yeah. I think there's some dentistry science behind that. Like it's better for your teeth to brush them first, which feels counterintuitive, but that's okay.
Yeah. But some people brush it after and, however it floats your boat. I just used the schedule. And then when my child would say, well, what do I need to do now? I would just say, oh, go look at your board. Because now I'm not the person telling them what to do. And that took a lot of the fight out of it.
That helps so much.
Yeah, it was like so much fight was gone from our morning and everybody was dressed and everybody was ready to go at the time when we had to be ready to go. And we just sort of timed it for the first few days to determine, like, if you have to leave your house at a certain time, then you know how long that process takes.
Yeah, I think you got somebody who's super excited and running around up there, huh?
It does indeed sound like that. Pandemic
just so y'all
parenting.
know, it's not crazy. It's not crazy sound issues. It's just like pandemic parenting, pandemic podcasting.
Yeah, they could be 3 stories up, and we have 3 stories in this house, and even when they go up to the 3rd story, you can hear them on the bottom. I don't know what it is about this house.
I love it. Okay, so I think this visual board is brilliant, but the idea of creating it, I think would get some people super excited. It does not excite me. It really overwhelms me.
I didn't create it. I bought one.
Oh, good.
I bought one. But at this point, I finished this chapter of that book, and I came to my husband and I said, now, mind you, he is a software developer. Mm-hmm. He's a software engineer. That's what he does for a living. And I come to him and I said, hey, honey, have you ever heard of Agile? And then he looks at me like, yes, that's how we do everything in software engineering. And I was like, so I think I want to use it at home. And he was like, okay. Because to be honest, when people who work in tech, so if somebody is working in tech and they're listening to this podcast, they might think, well, my company says they're agile, but they are not actually agile. This happens a lot. It's the difference between saying you're agile at a company and actually being an agile company. Some people just put in place certain processes and then stamp the agile like sticker on it.
Right. Okay.
But for us in a house, when your team is only 4 or 5 or 6 people, it's a lot easier to be agile in actual practice. So we have meetings where we discuss what's going to go on our to-do list for our household tasks. It's not called a to-do list in Agile. It's called your weekly sprint.
Okay. I like that. It does feel that way, doesn't it?
Yeah. And what it does is it gives you a time box for what you're going to complete. And that time box is usually 2 weeks for a sprint. So you only want to put exactly what you can get to done, because Agile, one of the biggest definitions of Agile is that you must finish it. It must be some version of done.
Yeah. So I do that with all of my clients as a coach in the Intentionally Brave Entrepreneurs program. And when I'm coaching one-on-one is to say, let's make commitment. Let's break down your bigger goals into really small, manageable commitments, because I want you to check them off the list. It forces you to sit and think about all of the things that have to go into something that you want to complete. And right? Is that what I'm hearing? And so it's like, okay, whatever. I have to build a website. Well, you can't build a website on your to-do list. You can, but you're going to just sit there and stare at it and be like, I don't know what the hell I want to do here. So what's the very first thing you have to do? You have to pick a platform or whatever, right? And so you're applying that to running your family.
Yeah, so a lot of what happens in our house is, we look at all of the household tasks or household projects that need to be done. Projects typically go on the sprint because projects are things that, like, you might need a new entryway solution, for instance. We had a lot of clutter that was happening on furniture because we didn't have a place to put shoes when people came in the house, and we didn't have a place to put coats. And it was winter, and we had just kind of moved into this house. So we were kind of getting a feel for how to live in it and then figuring out exactly what you need. Because part of the Agile process, too, is you need to know what your minimum viable product is going to be. Like, what is the least amount you can do to call a project completed? Because the point is not to get to perfection. The point is to get to something that works and then iterate on that working thing until it is exactly what you want it to be.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and so it's a big deal to, so we wanted to have an entryway solution. So that's actually what we put on the sprint, but we had it broken down into a task list and, into the scope of our project. And so the scope of our project was that, we had a bookshelf that we could put at the entryway, and that would be a place where the shoes could live. We had some command hooks in the basement. We could take those command hooks upstairs, hang them on the wall, and put coats on them. And this became our solution last winter for just all of the clutter that was ending up in every chair or shoes that were in the middle of the floor. Because the fact is that if somebody has a solution the minute they walk in the door, those shoes aren't making it past that.
Right.
Because they know where it goes. I mean, sometimes have I worn my shoes further in the house? Sure, nobody's perfect at putting stuff away every single time. I mean, if you expect your kids to have a clean room every time you go to tell them to clean their room, that's not going to happen either.
Right. No, I mean, there are 7 of us. And so literally there'll be shoes everywhere. And I'm like, please put your shoes away nicely. Please put your shoes away. They're like everywhere. It's really frustrating.
But it did solve a problem for me because now all I have to do is say to my child, I look at my child and I say, where do your shoes go? And then she looks at me or he looks at me and you can see the little wheels turning and then they go, oh, okay. And they pick them up and they take them to the bookshelf. So the conversation became less of a struggle and the conversation became easier to have. Less words were needed in order to get the thing done. And I think that's an important part with kids is because kids just don't want to hear you like tell them the same thing over and over and over again. And also sometimes for your kids, it's not that they don't want to or they don't. Sometimes it's just they don't know how or they don't remember how or they don't remember where things go. And so, part of being agile is at the end of that 2-week sprint is asking, like, what worked for you this week?
Yes.
What didn't work for you this week?
Reassessment. Taking time to reassess. Yeah.
We call it a feedback loop, and you get a constant feedback loop through Agile. It's what is working, what is not working, what needs to be done. When we're setting up a project, we get feedback through setting up our what we call the Moscow method, which I didn't make up, but it's a wonderful method. Like what must be in this project, what should be in this project, what could be in this project, what won't be in this project. Because it's just as important to define what you're not going to do. Because otherwise things can get too busy and you can get too far out down a rabbit hole. And then you've got scope creep, which is just other projects or other things to do with this project creeping in on your MVP. And you don't want that to happen.
I love it. I love all this business talk. Like my type A listeners are like getting excited. I can tell right now. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so great.
Yeah. And I always say that I run my family like I run my business.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have created this system, this program, Agile Parenting. At what point did it occur to you, this works so well for my family, this could work for other families. In fact, I think this could be a business.
Yeah, so I actually already had a business where I was teaching productivity hacks for parents, essentially.
Okay.
And then I just realized that what was happening to parents was that burnout was still occurring. And parenting burnout is real. I just want to say that right now for everybody who's listening and feeling really bad about having felt burnt out. It's real. It exists.
And it's normal.
Yeah. And you're not imagining it. You're not the only person who's ever been there. That feeling of exhaustion at the end of the day where you just want to crawl into bed and it feels like it was way worse than the physical labor you did that day parenting your children, or the lack of initiative to like start a new project, or, you know, any of those burnout symptoms, those are just real. And self-care is not going to solve it. That's the number one thing I'm always telling my parents, is that self-care is not going to solve it. And
it might depend on what you consider self-care, because I would counter that using a program like you're using is a form of self-care.
Well, that could be true. But what I'm saying is that taking time away for yourself, or trying to solve overwhelm by escapism isn't going to work.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Because what we're sold as self-care and what we're told we should do is like, go take 5 minutes to yourself. If you're a single mom, where are you going to find that 5 minutes? Like, It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, it's important to take time for yourself, but I hear what you're saying. Like, that alone, that's not going to fix your problem.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. Like, you just have a much more difficult time, because now you're spending your self-care and alone time thinking about all the things that are on your to-do list, or thinking about all the things that are going to be added to it when you're done. And so having this never-ending to-do list and taking time out for yourself wasn't going to solve it. Having a never-ending to-do list wasn't going to honor your needs in any way.
Right.
Because it never ends. Like, right. I mean, how many times have you got started with your to-do list and you're checking things off and you're feeling all that good dopamine, and then your kid's school calls and you have a sick kid and you have to go get them?
Yep.
And now your whole day's thrown out of whack, and then you feel guilty at the end of the day for all the things that you didn't get done. And then you get to burnout.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, quickly, because it's just nothing is ever done enough.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a terrible position that so many people find themselves in. Nothing is ever done enough.
Yeah.
And so your agile parenting solution that you created to solve your own problem in your own family helps people get things done enough.
Yeah, because you're literally taking it down to like the minimum amount that it needs to be done. You're not going to peruse Pinterest for 2 hours, find the most beautiful entryway solution you ever came up with, and then stare at that picture and then be mad that it's not getting completed. Because a lot of thing that also happens to our to-do list is we put things on a to-do list, and then it becomes this to-do list that's for somebody else in our family to do. And then it sits there because they have their own priorities and they have their own things that they have to get done. And your project seems like it might take a long time, or it might be more difficult than something else that's on the to-do list that can be checked off quickly. And you're not communicating effectively, because that happens a lot. Now I'm stomping around and I'm mad and I'm huffing and I'm puffing. And he's like, "Why are you mad?" I've been there so many times because I didn't know how to say, like, "Hey, you know that thing I want done that I put at the top of the list? I put it at the top because it's like priority numero uno, and you've just skipped it." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't know. Now we can go fix it."
So much of this, though, it's funny because the work that I do and the Brave method I teach, the first letter is boundaries. B is boundaries. And I'm hearing a lot of boundary conversation in this. Even when I think about your dinner situation and all of that, like, a boundary, to me, is I put the most important thing at the top of the list. Don't skip it. Oh, okay. Now I know that's important, right? We got to set the boundary. We got to communicate the boundary and then help people stick to the boundary. So I love it.
Yeah. And part of Agile is just like you prioritize what's on your backlog. And your backlog is just every time you think of something that needs to be done, it goes on that list. Now, of course, are there everyday tasks that you have to do in your house, like laundry or sweeping?
And you don't put those on the list?
Yeah, I don't put those on the list. But those things, laundry goes on my calendar. Kid laundry happens on Wednesday. Adult laundry happens on Monday.
Yeah.
And then that's the only day I do laundry.
Good for you. That's smart.
Yeah. If the kids ask me where something is, I'm like, well, that'll be back in 3 sleeps.
Yep. So cute. Yeah. I like it. And then you can start teaching them to do their own laundry, which is lovely.
And then the other thing I want to say about that is teaching kids how to do household tasks. Because I don't like to call them chores. I like to call them household tasks, because that's what they are. You have to do them to run a house. And when you call them chores, it sounds like it's work. and it sounds awful. But when you're being helpful to other people in your house and you're doing a household task, then you're just being a part of the team.
And words matter.
Yeah, they totally matter. And for me, I don't have to teach my kids to do every single chore or every single household task that is available in my house. We self-assign tasks because that's another big part of being agile, is that people should do the things that they like to do and that play to their strengths or play to their capabilities. So some projects, like laundry, for instance, a household task of laundry, I could do a pictorial of laundry and hang it on the door. And if my kid needed to do laundry, they could follow the pictorial. For instance, if your kid learns visually, if your kid doesn't learn visually, then maybe there's another way that you have to demonstrate it. But it's not one that necessarily has to be taught. Sweeping, you can teach by doing. They'll see you do it. They figure it out. They know how it works. You might come home one day and they've magically done it. But their task that they chose might be to load the dishwasher or unload the dishwasher or put away groceries when you come home. But everybody has to pick tasks that they're going to do, and everybody has to participate in being a member of the family or the team in this instance.
So I love that in concept, but what if there's a task that's required that everybody hates? I love the idea of pick the tasks you like and you're going to do great at. I'm all for that. But then what about the leftover stuff?
Well, some things we alternate.
Okay.
So nobody has to eat the frog every single week or day.
Okay.
And some things we outsource.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to do them.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of outsourcing. Okay. Yeah. I like that.
Yard work we typically outsource.
Okay. I like that. And so just to push back a little bit on I don't have to teach them. I mean, we do learn by watching and we learn by doing, but also I think there's a way to do that that's collected. Like when it comes to cooking, I'll say, come and do this with me. And I am teaching them, but they're experiencing it with me and we're learning together and I'm showing them together. I don't think that teaching is a bad word in this scenario.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad word. I'm just saying that it's not necessary for your kid to go out into the universe knowing explicitly how to do every single household task.
Well, there are lots of ways to do it. There are lots of ways to solve a problem, right?
Right. I mean, if I didn't dust the baseboards at age 5, it's not like I'm not going to see dust on them at 20 and be like, oh, you know what would solve that? A rag and some Pledge. There are just certain things that your child will figure out on their own without having you explicitly watch over them do it and supervise and nag, and remind them to do it all the time. And then it becomes a power struggle between you and them that neither one of you enjoys.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just doesn't seem worth it to me.
You just said something though that I really appreciate. And it sounds to me like this system that you've created out of your own need really cuts down on the nagging. And I believe that as the parent, the nagging is one of the most annoying things. And certainly as the child, being nagged at is like banging your head against a wall. And it sounds like it really limits that because everyone has some control over when and how they get things done. And there's a system and a path and a way for them to know for all of you to know what to do without having to be constantly hit over the head with it via nagging.
For me, it's twofold. One is that once something is on your list for you to do, I no longer worry about it.
Yeah.
I don't even think about it.
Yeah. That delegation at its best. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, as a CEO of my business, if I hand something to my business manager, I don't worry about it. Now, if I notice that it didn't get done and it's been a few days past the due date or something like that, then I might say, hey, did you remember that thing? And then, I'll get an answer back. I'll get but you get the feedback. They get the feedback that they realized that you noticed, and then you get the feedback that they forgot or they didn't have the right tool. Because, how many times is it just a kid doesn't want to tell you that they don't have the tool that they need to complete a project?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Or that they don't have the knowledge. And then the other thing is Agile teaches effective communication.
Yes, I love that. Effective communication could change everybody's life in every capacity.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So, this show, I always like to remind people, isn't a business podcast. It's about a brave journey. It's about our own personal experiences. Tell me why this work feels brave to you.
Well, it feels brave to me because it's really pushing back against the societal expectations of moms specifically, and parents, because dads are taught one thing via television and advertising, and that's that they don't know what to do, or they're going to be really bad at it. They won't know how to dress the kids. The kids will go out in mismatched clothes. Who cares?
Right. And also not true. My ex-husband does a way better ponytail on my youngest daughter than I do. Way better.
Yeah. It's not true. And then mom is taught that she has to go to work, and then she has to come home, and then she has to organize all of the doctor's appointments and get all the calls from the schools, and all of this pressure to just be super mom on top of being super worker, on top of being super daughter, super cousin, super whatever else. And it's just too much. And so to me, I didn't want to come in and create something that was a Band-Aid onto a problem. I wanted to really revolutionize how we view mom's role in parenting and how we view dad's role in parenting, because to me, it's really annoying that I can't read the Berenstain Bears to my kids. Because I remember loving those books when I was a kid, but when I see...
They're sexist AF.
Yeah, when I see Dad Bear being treated as a buffoon, I'm like, oh my God, this cannot be what they learn.
Yeah.
Because that's not our house.
Yeah, I agree. I think anytime we disrupt the societal norm, it's really brave. And for any parents who decide they don't want to live in the chaos and the clutter and the disorganization and the feeling like they're constantly nagging or broken or something's not working, to choose to change it is really brave.
Yeah, and to be honest, I didn't know it was going to work when we first started. How would you know? You can't
that's
know.
the thing. You can't really know anything. You can know that it's going to stay the same if you don't try something different. So if you want it to change, you just have to try.
Yeah, so I was like, you use this at work. I know the basic principles of how it works. We're going to just do this. And I think we set kind of a time period that we were going to test it out.
Oh, I love that.
90 days is usually a good time period. It's like a season, and it's how you plan in software development for business, because in 90 days, technology changes. In 90 days,
Sure.
apps are out to market that you would have created, and you're screwed. You've lost all your money and all your time. And to me, time is more valuable than money, because I can get more money. It
with
won't
more time.
Always be easy.
Yeah.
But I can't create more time.
Yeah. So
that's
using your
finite.
time wisely is how you make more money.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that you didn't know it would work, but that it does work. And then you decided to share it with other people. Yvonne, if you were to give our listeners one top tip, like where to start or what to change or what to try, what would it be?
So I always like to tell people to start with having what we call the daily stand-up, but it's literally a meeting in the morning for 5 to 7 minutes, where you're just standing across from each other, looking at your calendars and saying, hey, this is what I have today. This is what you have today. This is what the kids have today. So who's going to do X, Y, and Z? And it's
so is that meeting just between you and your spouse, or is it with you and your kids?
So I don't include my kids because my kids don't really understand what's on their calendar, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're 5 and 3. Their idea of what tomorrow is kind of abstract. But they do have their daily Scrum board, which is their part of this meeting.
Right.
But for older kids, if you have middle schoolers or high schoolers who know their schedule and they have their own extracurriculars, or they could even talk to another kid who's on the team about driving them home, then you'll want to include them in this meeting.
And I have to tell you, having older kids, the idea of gathering them all together for 5 minutes literally makes me want to laugh out loud.
It's a lot easier than you think.
Total chaos. It's total chaos. Having 5-year-olds is so different from 16-year-olds. It's like, oh my God, like give me the toddlers back. This shit is hard.
Well, I've done it with an 11-year-old.
There you go.
And the 11-year-old, I mean, mostly he was eating his breakfast while we were talking, but we just looked over everything that had to be done. And then nobody gets to have too much on their plate because somebody will say, oh, you know what?
Yeah.
You have a meeting at 5:00 and the kids got to be picked up at this time.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
go pick them up. Like, it just works out better.
So what's the version of that for people who don't have a partner to support them? Is it just take a minute every morning and review your schedule and get your head on straight?
Yeah, it's just, when you are in logistics brain, think about what's on your schedule and how you can offload things that you can't do.
Yeah.
So it might not be that like you might have to go pick up the kids, but it also might be you can find a carpool.
Ask for help.
You can ask somebody in your community to help you do these things, or you can find, a babysitter who can also pick them up from school. There are solutions. You have to get a little bit more creative if you don't have a partner. But I mean, sometimes even with a partner, I have to think totally outside of the box.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We might both have a meeting at 5:00 and then what are you going to do?
Absolutely.
So it's just about coming up with solutions. And I do the daily stand up in the morning because that's when we're all in logistics brain. But if your partner or your support team or support community goes to work at 5:00 in the morning and you need to do it at 8:00 at night, you can do it then. It's flexible.
Yeah,
you just want to do it whenever it's going to be logistics brain time for you.
I love that. That's a great tip. Y'all can do that. Figure out how to enact it and do it. Yvonne, one of the things that we talk about every week on this show, and I'm excited to hear your answer to this, especially with how analytic your brain is and for the way you've put all these wonderful systems together. When things go well for you, how do you celebrate?
Oh, so usually I get some food. I'm not even gonna lie. Like if I make a big sale, I go out and have tacos. I mean, I'm not having like big fancy food. I'm going out for like my favorite taco joint and eating that stuff up.
Yeah.
And I'm also a big proponent of food should not be your reward system. Like we make sure that we give the kids varying rewards so that it doesn't become that food is the thing that you always go get when you're celebrating. Mm-hmm. But there's something about those comfort foods that's just really nice when you've had a good day.
Absolutely. I feel that. I totally get that. I love it. I love it. I think this is great. There are so many ways for people to sort of systemize their home and their personal life to make it function better. You're not stuck. It doesn't have to be chaotic if you just take the time to set some stuff up front, which I get is a lot. This is why people don't implement new systems, is because the idea of taking the time to implement them feels really, really overwhelming.
Well, the nice thing about this one is that there's not a lot of implementation.
Yeah.
Like you're just going to choose one, like maybe for your first sprint, you're just going to choose one thing that you want to get done and you're just going to do it to the minimum amount possible for it to be done enough for you to look at it and see what it actually needed. Because sometimes you think a project needs way more than it actually needed.
That's so true. Don't we overthink? Yeah, I agree with you. It's totally worth it. And it's not as hard as you've built yourself up to think that it is. I promise. And Yvonne promises because she's got a whole business around it. I love it. If folks wanted to learn more from you or connect with you, you have lots of resources for that. Will you share that with people?
Yeah, you can come to YvonneMarcus.com, which is where you can reach me all day, all night. Someone will get back to you within 24 hours. Or I am on Twitter. That is the place where I hang out. It is only me. You will get 100% me if you at me at Agile Yvonne.
That's so fun.
Because it is my favorite piece of social media, like ever. I talk about things people will consider political, but I also talk a lot about how to run an agile home.
I love it. I have a love-hate relationship with Twitter, but I'm going to go check you out on Twitter.
Twitter is it's my jam. I think it's the ADHD, really.
Oh, that makes so much sense because it moves really fast and you don't have to stay focused on one thing for too long.
Yeah. And then like I'm having a conversation about one thing here and then 2 seconds later I'm having a completely different conversation with a different person. It's great.
That makes a lot of sense. It really does. And I love how you use things like that to your advantage, right? Like if you do have something like ADHD and you function this way, well, what platforms and systems will have you function the best? It's really smart. I really love it.
You can't fight your brain.
You can't. You have to work with it. You have to work with your brain.
Yeah, your brain has to work for you. You cannot fight against it because if you're fighting against it, no system you set up will work.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a golden nugget right there too. It's really true. And I tell everybody, like, try it different ways. You don't have to do it any particular way. And you said that about your morning meeting, which could be your evening meeting. It doesn't matter as long as what you do works for you.
Yeah, flexibility is key. The big things about Agile is person to person. You finish it face-to-face meetings. Finishing it like finishing something, like done is better than perfect.
Yes,
and,
for sure.
And documentation is not necessary all the time.
I appreciate that. Documentation is not always necessary. That's awesome. Yvonne, will you share your 3 words with us one last time?
Revolutionary, fearless, and creative.
Okay,
ADHD brain, I almost forgot them.
That's why I write them down. I was like, I have them here. Yes. And I just want to speak to them, or have you speak to them for just a minute. I do believe that what you're doing is revolutionary. You're redefining what it means to run a family, and it doesn't have to be the way it's always been, and you can redo that. Let's talk about fearless for just a minute, because that's a word that gets my hackles up a little, but I think you use it the way I don't use it.
Yeah. So to me, fearless doesn't mean without fear. Because let me tell you, my mom will tell you that I do everything if I am terrified of it. I used to sign myself up for public speaking competitions, even though I would be shaking and like about to vomit and crying. And like, I would still go up there and I would perform my speech and I would do the thing. My mom used to say I had chutzpah.
Yes.
And, the reason that I use the word fearless is because it's not about being without fear. Like, you're going to have fear, but it's about pushing through that and doing things even though they're hard. Now, there comes a point when you have to say, hey, maybe public speaking isn't for me, or maybe public speaking isn't for me at this point in my life, or it isn't in this structure because it's making me physically ill every single time.
Right.
But to do it anyway and learn about that process and figure out if it will work or what will work. Because they tell you, public speaking, the more you practice, the better you'll be. So I practiced, I did it, I showed up, I competed. And then eventually decided that I wasn't going to do it for a long time. And I signed up for a public speaking thing recently, went and did it, and it went excellently because I was talking about Agile and your home. And
you knew what you were talking about. You felt good about it. So I just call that brave.
Yeah. I just use fearless in a way to sort of mean that, because to me, fearless is just the word that resonates.
Okay.
Yeah. Because brave always feels a little bit like, when you're a little kid and like you've got that boo-boo that's kind of big and you have to go to the hospital and then everybody's talking about how brave you are. Or, and there's a lot of different ways to be brave, of course, but just.
Well, that's the whole point of this show, though, is to redefine bravery. It isn't always overcoming something big and scary. It's often putting your fear in your pocket and doing things that scare you.
Well, and one of the things that I also think about a lot is language and connotation, and what a word might mean to me might be different than what it means to someone else. Yeah. I had a talk with a friend the other day he was an African-American man, and somebody jokingly called him lazy.
Oh, not funny. Mm-mm.
And it was not funny to him at all. And he knew that she was joking.
Doesn't
and
matter.
they were really good friends. And so they were able to talk through it and work it out.
Yeah. Intention doesn't equal impact. And that's a really important thing to keep in mind.
And in this case, like they were able to talk through it, and she was able to understand, and he was able to understand like where that was coming from. But it's not easy all the time. And so I just always remember like, and try and think about like, what could the connotation of this word be?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I love it. Well, and we talked about it before we started the interview. I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun to dig into. And then creative. And you had a really great reason for selecting this word. Will you share that with folks?
Well, I think I came up with a creative solution for my house, first and foremost, and then, turning that into something that was coursework or a business certainly was a creative way of presenting a new idea.
For sure.
Because there are a lot of people out there that will teach you how to survive, how to create more productivity hacks, how to clean your house in less time. But there aren't a lot of people out there like giving you actual tools to learn from your 5-year-old, why something isn't working for them.
Yeah.
Maybe they need music while they're doing their homework. I always did. And asking my 5-year-old that question allows me to get into that window. And so I just felt like it was a more creative way to get at a problem that exists for everyone.
Yeah, I agree with you that Agile Parenting is a really creative approach, and that we all are creative differently. We all function differently in finding space and time to hear that from one another and to honor that in one another. It's really lovely. Yvonne, thank you so much for spending some time with us today and sharing your personal story and how you're out supporting families and teaching folks to be more agile.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was a great time.
All right, folks, I hope you have enjoyed this. I am pretty sure that you've got a couple of great takeaways that you can implement right now to build a more agile life, which to me creates more joy and more comfort and lots more opportunities to be brave. If you love what you're hearing here on the Brave Files, I would really like to have you join us as a supporter on Patreon. You can head over to patreon.com/bravefiles and check out all the different support tiers and join our Brave family. I also urge you to give us a call. Let us know what you think of this episode or any episode, or maybe something you'd like to see in a future show. You can reach us at 312-646-0205. Thank you for taking time to be here. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your brave journey. This is Heather Vickery reminding you today and every day to go out and choose bravely. Hey friends, I want to share something really exciting with you. We already know you enjoy listening to podcasts because you're listening to this one, but I'm also betting you enjoy audiobooks. And hey, listen, if you don't already enjoy audiobooks, then it's time to check them out. That's why I'm really excited to share Libro.fm with you. They are an incredible new platform for listening to audiobooks. And by choosing Libro.fm over other audiobook services, you are supporting a local bookstore of your choice and investing in your local community. Libro.fm offers over 150,000 audiobooks via their primary platform, which, by the way, they built with love and from scratch because they're a small business also. They even offer bookseller recommendations for great audiobook options. You can sign up right now via www.vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. That's vickeryandco.com/LIBROFM. And when you do, you'll get one free audiobook of your choice, and the proceeds will go to your favorite local bookstore. Now, check what I just said there. You're going to get a free book, and the proceeds are still going to go to your local bookstore because Libro.fm makes sure that their booksellers get paid even when they give a promo to customers. I've listened to over 20 audiobooks this year alone. I especially love listening to memoirs read by the author, and it feels great knowing that all of my purchases support my local bookstore, The Book Table, in Oak Park, Illinois. Libro.fm. The same audiobooks, the same price, but a completely different story. Check them out right now at vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? Maybe you've had this thought and then quickly shut it down because who has the time? Or you don't know how, or gosh, it just all seems too hard. If you have something to share with the world, we want to encourage you to get your message out. The world needs to hear it. Did you know that 50% of all homes are podcast fans? If you've ever wondered about having your own podcast or how it can increase your business or get your message across, then please join me and the other experts from the Podcast Power Academy for our monthly free Q&A session. It's called So You Want to Start a Podcast? This casual live conversation will help you understand how podcasting can be a great decision, why now is the best time to get started, and how to get into action with it. Visit podcastpoweracademy.com to learn more. You've been listening to The Brave Files, stories of people living courageously. To learn more about the show, find our show notes and full episode transcripts, or to get some great bonus content, visit thebravefilespodcast.com. And we would love to know what you think of the show. You can give us a call at 312-646-0205. Let us know your thoughts on the episode, the show in general, or maybe share with us how you're out choosing bravely. This episode is brought to you by Vickery & Co. Success Coaching. Coaching that helps you maintain a life well lived and a business well run. Learn more at vickeryandco.com. Our music was created and produced in a custom collaboration with Matt Lewis from ML Creative Consulting, a boutique firm dedicated to helping clients identify their unique sound and amplify their brand with custom delivered soundtracks. We couldn't do any of this without our extraordinary audio engineer, Andrew Olson. Learn more about him and check out his work at findandrewolson.com. And special thanks to everyone on Team Brave, from our producers, associate producers, copy editors, writers, and support team. Special thanks to Molly, Mary, Kim, Sabra, and Sabrina. I'm your host and executive producer, Heather Vickery. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.